7 babies murdered. 7 others attacked. Different methods. Air injected into bloodstreams. Milk forced into stomachs. Insulin allegedly used as poison. And somehow, nobody stopped her for an entire year. That is the story a British jury accepted. But now, there's another chapter. Because a group of international medical experts has gone back through the cases and reached a radically different conclusion. They say they found no medical evidence that any of these babies were murdered. Her case is now being reviewed as a potential miscarriage of justice, which leaves us with a disturbing question. What actually happened inside the neonatal unit at the Countess of Chester Hospital? Tonight, we're going through the case of Lucy Letby, especially how the case has been progressing, because it's apparently not over. Welcome to the podcast You Can't Unhear. Lucy Letby didn't look like the person who would eventually dominate British headlines. She was born in Hereford in 1990, an only child, and eventually studied nursing at the University of Chester. By 2011, she was working with premature and vulnerable newborns, and colleagues generally knew her as normal. She went out with friends, took holidays, went salsa dancing, worked extra shifts. She even appeared in publicity connected to fundraising for the neonatal unit. There was no obvious criminal history, no known violent past, and no trail of previous allegations suggesting what prosecutors would later accuse her of doing. Then came 2015. Between June 2015 and June 2016, the neonatal unit experienced a series of deaths and unexpected collapses. The first case, eventually prosecuted as murder, involved baby A, a premature twin who died on June 8, 2015. His twin sister, baby B, collapsed the following night, but survived. The prosecution would eventually argue that Letby had deliberately introduced air into their circulation. Days later, baby C died, then baby D, and doctors began noticing something troubling. Lucy Letby appeared repeatedly around these unexplained events. Consultant Dr. Stephen Breary later said he first became concerned about the association between Letby's presence and the deaths in June 2015. But suspicion isn't proof. And at that point, there was no murder investigation. The collapses continued. In August, baby E died. His twin, baby F, survived an episode that prosecutors later said involved deliberate insulin poisoning. Then came baby G, who survived multiple collapses but was left severely disabled. Other babies followed. Different medical histories, different circumstances, different alleged methods. And this became one of the unusual features of the prosecution's case. There wasn't one consistent mechanism. Prosecutors alleged Letby harmed babies through combinations of air embolism, excess milk, insulin, and interference with breathing tubes. By early 2016, some consultants believed the association with Letby could no longer be ignored. Dr. Ravi Jayaram later said consultants were increasingly alarmed. But hospital management did not immediately contact police. And that delay would eventually become almost as controversial as the criminal case itself. Then came the deaths of 2 triplet brothers, babies O and P. Baby O died on June 23rd. Baby P died the following day. Their surviving brother was transferred away. Soon afterward, Letby was removed from frontline neonatal duties. But even then, nobody had proved that a crime had occurred. In fact, Letby challenged her removal. She filed a formal grievance against the hospital, and remarkably, her complaint was upheld. Documents concerning that grievance have since become part of the Thirlwall inquiry, examining what happened inside the hospital. At one stage, there were plans for Letby to return to clinical work. The consultants resisted. Eventually, the situation escalated beyond an internal hospital dispute. In May 2017, Cheshire Police launched Operation Hummingbird. Now, investigators weren't simply asking why babies had died. They were asking whether somebody had deliberately killed them. On July 3, 2018, police arrested Lucy Letby at her home. They searched the property, and among her belongings, they found something that would later become infamous: handwritten notes. One included the words, "I am evil. I did this." Another said, "I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough to care for them." To prosecutors, they looked almost like confessions. But there was a complication. Other writing on those same notes said things like, "I haven't done anything wrong," and "I am innocent." Letby would later explain that she wrote the notes while overwhelmed and psychologically deteriorating after being accused of harming babies. The jury would eventually have to decide what those words meant. Police arrested her again in 2019 and again in 2020. Then, on November 11th, 2020, Lucy Letby was formally charged. Her trial began in October 2022. It became one of the longest murder trials in British legal history. The prosecution's case was enormous. Medical records, shift patterns, text messages, Facebook searches, expert testimony, hospital documents, and evidence concerning 17 babies. The prosecution argued that Letby was the common factor. She had repeatedly been present during unexpected collapses, sometimes when babies appeared to be improving. They also alleged she searched Facebook for parents of babies involved in the case. Then there were handover sheets. Police found hundreds of hospital handover documents at her home, including records relating to babies named in the indictment. The prosecution argued that some had been retained as trophies. Letby said she accumulated paperwork unintentionally and that she regularly searched for people on Facebook. Prosecutors also introduced another possible piece of the puzzle: a married doctor, whose identity was protected in court. Letby exchanged large numbers of messages with him. They met outside work, and prosecutors suggested she was emotionally attached to him. One theory presented at trial was that some of the emergencies gave Letby opportunities to attract his attention. But importantly, no definitive motive was ever established. On August 18, 2023, after months of evidence and weeks of deliberations, the verdicts were announced. Lucy Letby was convicted of murdering 7 babies and attempting to murder 6 others. There were some counts on which the jury could not reach verdicts. 3 days later, she was sentenced. Letby refused to enter the courtroom. Mr. Justice Goss described her actions as a calculated campaign involving the most vulnerable children. He imposed a whole life order. No minimum term, no parole. She would die in prison. At that moment, the story appeared finished. But it wasn't. One unresolved allegation concerned a premature infant known as Baby K. Prosecutors alleged that in February 2016, Dr. Ravi Jayaram entered the nursery and saw Letby beside the baby's incubator while the child's breathing tube had become displaced. The first jury hadn't reached a verdict. So prosecutors tried Letby again. In July 2024, the second jury convicted her of attempting to murder baby K. She received another whole life order. That brought the total to 7 murders and 7 attempted murders, and 15 whole life orders. Her attempts to challenge the convictions in the Court of Appeal were unsuccessful. But outside the courtroom, questions were growing. This is where the Lucy Letby story becomes very different from most serial killer cases, because scientists, statisticians, doctors, and legal commentators began publicly questioning parts of the evidence. And in February 2025, those questions became much louder. An international panel of 14 medical specialists reviewed the medical evidence. The group was led by Canadian neonatologist Dr. Shu Lee, and their conclusion was extraordinary. They said they found no medical evidence supporting deliberate harm. Instead, they proposed that the baby's deaths and collapses could be explained by natural disease, complications of prematurity, or problems with medical care. Dr. Lee summarized their conclusion very simply. We did not find any murders. That doesn't overturn a conviction. It doesn't make Letby legally innocent, but it created a completely different question. What if medical events interpreted by prosecutors as deliberate attacks had another explanation? Take air embolism. This was central to several convictions. Prosecutors argued that Letby injected air into babies' bloodstreams, causing sudden collapses and unusual skin discoloration. Dr. Lee's own research on air embolism had been discussed during the original trial. But in 2025, Lee said his work had been misinterpreted. His panel offered alternative explanations for multiple cases, including infection, thrombosis, respiratory problems, and failures in treatment. The prosecution's original medical expert, Dr. Dewey Evans, has stood by his conclusions. So now, you have medical experts looking at the same babies and reaching dramatically different interpretations. And that's why this case hasn't disappeared. Police continued investigating Letby for additional incidents, including cases at the Countess of Chester Hospital and Liverpool Women's Hospital. They eventually submitted evidence concerning 9 additional babies to prosecutors. 2 babies had died. 7 survived. Police wanted prosecutors to consider 11 potential offences. Then, in January 2026, the Crown Prosecution Service announced its decision: no new charges. The CPS said the evidential test required to prosecute had not been met in any of those additional cases. Cheshire Police openly said this was not the outcome they had anticipated. They believed they had provided sufficient evidence, but prosecutors disagreed. Lucy Letby's new legal team has taken the case to the Criminal Cases Review Commission, the independent body that investigates potential miscarriages of justice in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Her preliminary application arrived in February 2025. Since then, the CCRC has received expert reports, legal submissions, and material from Letby's original defence team. As of February 2026, the Commission confirmed that its review is underway. If the CCRC concludes there is a real possibility the convictions would not be upheld, it can refer the case back to the Court of Appeal. But it hasn't done that yet, and until a court overturns them, Lucy Letby remains convicted of murdering 7 babies and attempting to murder 7 others. There's another investigation happening alongside all of this. Because regardless of what happens to Letby's convictions, there are questions about how the Countess of Chester Hospital handled the deaths. The Furwall inquiry was established to examine events at the hospital, including how concerns were raised, how management responded, and what lessons should be learned for neonatal care. Its hearings examined an extraordinary conflict. Doctors said they were raising serious concerns about Letby. Letby said she was being bullied and unfairly blamed. Management struggled between those two narratives, and babies continued collapsing. As of August 2026, the inquiry's final report has not yet been published. The inquiry says publication will not occur until after Parliament's summer recess. And this is why I think the Lucy Letby case is so difficult to talk about now. If the convictions are correct, then a nurse entrusted with Britain's most vulnerable babies quietly attacked them, while doctors struggled for months to convince hospital executives that something was terribly wrong. But if significant parts of the medical evidence were wrong, then premature babies suffering genuine medical catastrophes may have been transformed into victims of crimes that never happened. And a nurse may have been sentenced to spend every remaining day of her life in prison because of them. Those are two radically different versions of reality. And right now, the British justice system still recognises only one. Lucy Letby murdered 7 babies and attempted to murder 7 more. Whether that remains the final chapter is now in the hands of investigators, medical experts, the CCRC, and potentially another courtroom. Thanks for joining me tonight. What do you think about this? Do you think she deserves the punishment, or should there be rooms for reduction? Anyway, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any updates on this case. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next episode of the podcast You Can't Unhear.